second.
What are you doing?
I forgot to unmute. Well, first of all, I pressed the start button on the YouTubes, and then I waited for YouTube to start, and then I realized I still had myself and you muted. So here we are. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today is Tuesday, August 9th. Thing we do. Episode 30 of the Off Meta podcast, where today we finalize the experimental custom characters. No, not custom, experimental characters that have all been released so far. Today we finish off with the Riot, the Snitch, and the Widow. But before we do that, I want to talk about Gen Con.
Oh, do you?
I do want to, just a brief moment.
I did not prepare for this at all. I would have absolutely made notes if we were going to talk about Gen Con.
Well, you know what? It was really just to exclude Tyler for a minute, you know? That was all it was. Like,
thank you.
Tyler's...
I'm glad you waited on me to join and then decided a subject matter which I have no stake in. But have at it. I'll go and change over some laundry or
no worries.
something.
The other thing I want to say is thanks for the people and part of our cast and crew and people that watched us and walked up to us during Gen Con and were like, "Hey, you guys, how's it going? Nice to see you." That was a really nice moment for
great hair
on the few occasions. That's exactly what they were saying to me. No, but it was really nice to see a lot of people there that I had no idea who you were until you said, "Oh yeah, I'm such and such on Discord, or I'm such and such on Twitch, or I'm such and such on the YouTubes." Really great to meet a bunch of you. Hopefully you had fun. We played, I'm going to say something like 8 games. It was probably the least amount of Blood on the Clocktower games I've played at the con since like in like 4 or 5, 6 years, whatever it's been since I started playing Blood on the Clocktower. But it was still some good games in there. We played a 15-player game that was run by Shade. Shade did a really good job. CB Man was in that game. Hi, CB Man. It was a good one, and then it was a fun game that Hayley was the demon and lost, which always makes me happy.
I wasn't the demon. I was the Scarlet Woman.
You were the demon.
Called the imp, and I should have killed myself because the spy was so trusted.
Yep.
But I just had a brain freeze moment and just didn't. And I actually tried to. So the mayor hadn't pinged off yet, so I actually pointed the kill at the mayor, hoping that Shade would just make the decision for me.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So
they made the decision for you. The decision was follow through with your kill.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
Your civic armor is no longer bulletproof, man.
No.
You are dead.
Yeah, we had some good games. And if you're watching us on the Twitch, don't forget we do prefer you watching us on the YouTube simply because we get revenue when you watch us on the YouTube. So we are saving you from the giant Amazon Twitch machine. No pennies for Jeff Bezos. Come and watch us over on YouTube instead if you can. No reason.
That's youtube.com/offmetaplays.
Don't need to say that, Tyler, because you just type it in the chat. The link's right there for them.
That's true.
Anyway, all right. So that's all I really wanted to say about YouTube. We do also.
If they're just hearing my voice upstairs, if there's people in my upstairs who just heard me speak, they didn't watch it on Twitch.
That's true. True. One other thing I do just want to say, hopefully we're going to have a video coming out in the next week that is of us playing a game that might be I'm not going to say we've got an exclusive drop because when I do look, there is one other big video out there, but hopefully we're going to have like a very early drop on a game that I think a lot of people are going to really like.
Which one's that?
I don't even know.
Wait,
I don't know.
The one that we filmed our first playthrough of.
Yes.
Right.
Holy mackerels.
No, Tyler doesn't even know anything about this. I can't wait
I don't
for
even
you
know.
to see it.
This is me feigning an emotion that I really have.
All right. Enough about the Gen Con machine.
There is a loop. I'm not in it.
Enough about Gen Con machine. 50 days away until our next con, which is Shucks.
Shucks?
Yeah, excite. Hopefully, Tyler, you'll be with us at that one.
Yeah, still, I'm going to go get I've now set up the wheels to allow me to do my passport renewal online.
Set up the wheels to do it.
It is a multi-step process.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, well,
every journey begins with a step out your front door, and that's what I did online, out my front door, with the U.S. government. All right, let's do this. Yeah, I would love. Shucks is the one. I've missed a lot of cons this year. Had a lot of things going on in my life in terms of moving and building up. You know, I don't think I've announced this publicly anywhere. So if y'all watching this, you're probably the first people to know. I got engaged this summer right? And so
did you know that, Hayley?
I'm sorry, what?
When did that
This is
happen?
news to literally everybody.
Well, yeah. So we were already buying a house together, right? Which is that's the economic version of like you're basically hitched, right? You own this piece of the most expensive thing you own in tandem, right? That's a big deal. And so then we just decide like let's do the romantic stuff of it too. And I got her a ring, and it looks really cool. And now we've got 4 kids and the 2 of us. Yeah, I know it's pretty cool.
That is
But that's
awesome.
why I haven't been able to make it to any conventions. I haven't been able to make it to anything. So maybe it was a bad idea. I'm not saying that. And if she's hearing this, I don't mean that at all.
If you could hear me upstairs, I'm joking.
I'm joking. No, I'd much rather miss Gen Con and do all this stuff. Yeah, but
Congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So someone's put in the chat.
I had something that they weren't in the loop on either.
For real.
You gotta hide games from me. I'll hide facts about my life.
Yeah. Well, someone in chat says, "Why is Shucks so expensive?" Is Shucks expensive?
It's Canadian.
Yes. It's Canada.
Well, it's expensive for us to get to because it's in Vancouver, but is it actually, in the grand scheme of things, an expensive convention? I don't know.
Isn't it $150 for 3 days or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Wow.
Something
Okay.
like that.
Yes, that does sound expensive.
That's kind of on par with Gen Con, but Gen Con's 4 days. So,
Is it?
yeah, I think so.
Shucks convention prices $159 US.
What great
I think
content.
they may have had an early ticket price too. It probably went up. But I don't know. Maybe it was always 150.
I think you're right.
I just like that con. It's so game focused. It's so easy going. I just had a really great experience with it compared to and everything's kind of like around you. You know, so I mean, I think like when you're a kid, people play with their toys in different ways. You know, I was one of those like, I'm gonna pour all the toys in the middle of the floor and just figure it out. And Shucks is a little bit like that. Whereas like Origins is like, you have to navigate a map to find the room to do the thing that you want to do. Right? I mean, and that's like, I guess, tougher on my brain. You
will fucking hate Gen Con then, let's be very clear.
You have to navigate a map that
literally,
spans about 8 buildings.
That's part of the reason I didn't go is because like I know I would have just been hanging on to y'all, being like, "What are we doing?"
It's okay.
Like,
we had other people like that. Don't worry.
Itinerary manager, buddy, go do something else. You know?
Isn't that right, Metro Mall?
Yep, hangers honors. No, but in all seriousness, no. But we had anyway. Let's move on. Let's start talking about things that people are actually here to listen to. Which, by the way, just to remind the other people that have now joined on the Twitch, we prefer you on YouTube.
Exclamation point.
Really, all it comes down to.
Both too, if you feel like it, or if you say, "Hey, I'm getting tired of them telling me which major streaming platform I need to watch this on," you can join us on our patreon.com/offmetaplays. I'm sure there's a link to that in the Twitch already, and I didn't see it. But if you want to join us on there, we'll never mention this again.
Well, you know, Kendra, it's disappointing that we didn't get to meet up with you guys, Kendra. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Kendra's great to play everything with.
There was a bunch of people that we knew were there that we didn't get to see. I mean, it's 50,000 people go into it, right? So it's not unsurprising you don't quite bump into everyone. But, you know, there was a bunch of people I really wanted to like run into.
Literally, a game that I worked on won an Any Jiangxi in the banquet hall. Jesus Christ, it's too similar to Blood on the Clocktower, but it's completely different actually.
Very different.
Ghosts. I don't know. Anyway, that won an Any. I had been planning to go and see the publishers of that since I got there on Wednesday night. Do you know when I got to see them? Sunday, 3 p.m. an hour before the con ended.
Did you get to kiss the medal? Did you get to?
I didn't. I should have asked to, shouldn't I?
Yeah, that's right.
Or like the Stanley Cup, where everybody on the team gets a day with the cup and they get to do whatever they want. You get to do that with the medal.
You would have been limited to like 15 minutes before they had to pack up. But yeah,
everybody gets the time it takes for this watch countdown to go through to handle the medal.
So
I'm glad we had all this fluff because I don't see a lot of daylight between us on some of these roles.
No.
Let's do it. Adam, you want to tell us about Riot?
No, not really.
Okay,
Riot.
well, that's the one that you're supposed to read.
You asked me if I want to. You did ask me, will I? Yes, I will. Do I want to? No. Riot. Nominees die, but may nominate again immediately. On day 3, they must. After day 3, evil wins. All minions are Riot. Riot.
Man, what a read. What a read.
Just like, what? Honestly, I've got no idea how Riot works. I think I've seen it played on, maybe even on our stream.
That's right. We played 3 games of it.
But I just don't get it. It just seems like absolutely complicated chaos. And Tyler was supposed to go first on this one, but I don't understand. So I just shoehorned myself in. Over to you, Tyler, because I don't know what the heck it is.
There's this game on New Girl, that TV show. I'm trying to remember. I think it was called like Distinguished Americans or something, where they just made up the rules as they went. And it's like, oh no, when he flips the cup, you have to say Abraham Lincoln's hat, right? And there's that kind of thing. Riot's a bit like that. It's not really Clocktower, right? I mean, it's it obviously it has some of the veneer. The first time I played Riot was in a text game. It was a play test before the role had been released, and I didn't know how it worked. There wasn't an almanac entry on it. Didn't know what was going on, and I was the Tinker, and I was thinking, "Ooh, this will be interesting because maybe the Tinker death will look like a Riot death." And in actuality, no, nothing actually looks like a Riot death other than a Riot death because they immediately get to nominate, right? And so, Clocktower's one of its many virtues is that death is not the end. In a Riot game, it is the end. If you get killed in a Riot game, you might as well go get a fucking snack because your day is over. Because you can't nominate from beyond the grave, you can just get that one vote. You're just sitting there watching other people play at that point and hoping that you did things in the right order, because it's really what it comes down to. Because of the disparity between good and evil, it's basically an order of operations game with Riot. Some people have mathed it out. I don't like that type of approach to games, so I never went through the process of thinking it out. And so, but knowing that it exists makes me like Riot less. Yeah. Anyway, it's a C tier demon for me.
I'm muted. You're muted. Everybody's muted except Tyler.
I'm going to say something completely different to Tyler, and I'm going to start off by saying that I don't really like Riot. It's okay. It's okay. You know, and one of my notes here says to me, it's basically a palate cleanser that you can play like as a change of pace if you only have Blood on the Clocktower with you, right? It's not really Blood on the Clocktower. It's got the same mechanics for the players, for the other characters that are in the game, except, you know, it changes how the whole thing works. It could be a completely different social deduction game. Completely different. It could be an entirely different social deduction game. It is basically, like I say, a palate cleanser. If you break out other games to play, like if you're waiting with like 6 people or 8 people and you're waiting for your 12 to arrive, you could play Riot. They don't normally last very long. It's normally a quick game. But would I want to play it all night? Hell no. Am I surprised we managed to get 3 games of it without people quitting? Hell yes. It's a C. You don't really play it. You can be excited to play a game of it when the first time you see it or 2, but you don't want to play it all night, and you probably won't want to play it for 3 or 4 days. Like afterwards, you'll just want a break from it.
And I was thinking, like if you wanted... Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Hayley. Sorry.
No, I just said sounds like it is a C. Like you both said C, right?
Yeah. I would. So the other thing is that like if you wanted that palate cleanser, which would you rather have? And I'll levy this at chat. Would you rather have a palate cleanser of like a Doomsayer script where it's intended to be 1 day, or would you rather have a palate cleanser like Riot? And I would rather have the Doomsayer script.
For shizzle.
Personally. So.
Yeah, totally. The Doomsayer. Yeah. We don't see enough Doomsayer, and we were in a 15-player game at Gen Con, and I was like, man, this game could really use the Doomsayer. Like, but
for real.
Know, I think it's a shame we don't see that out more often. But anyway, you are incorrect.
I put it in a time loop script because it was really awesome for me. But you know, whatever. Different taste. Tapir likes Riot. Tapir, if you were going to give it a grade, right? So we gave it a C. I think that's where it's going to land. I don't know that we're going to be swayed necessarily, because I will say this, Riot for me does take away any deduction aspect, because once the Riot goes off, you know what game it is, you know what the minions are, and you know what the demon is. Nothing else looks like it, so nothing else presents that way. Even a golem, even, you know, another examples of things, a Tinker Death, any of those types of things. None of them look like Riot. So, what do you think about that?
The only thing that looks like Riot would be...
Pierre gave it an A. Okay.
The only thing that looks like Riot would be Atheist. You could make an Atheist look like a Riot, but that would be it. But
Riot
even then, I still wouldn't be down for that. Thank you very much. I'm good. Skip.
Would they have to vote on the storyteller then, or did they just
nominate? They just nominated the storyteller. Yeah, that would be oof.
Okay.
Hayley, would you like to tell us about... let me rephrase this. This bit me the last time. Me asking you if you want to do it. You are obligated by the notes to tell us about the Snitch now. Thank you.
Who wants to talk about Snitches though, really? So, the Snitch. It is in your box if you have a Kickstarter edition of the game. Minions start knowing 3 not-in-play characters. Minions get bluffs. Adam?
What do snitches get? S tier itches is what snitches get. So with that, do not forget that this, when we talked about previously, there was another minion. There was another outsider that I wanted to rank lower. I think it was the Heretic, now that I'm saying it out loud, where I wanted to rank it lower than it probably should be based on our criteria. Snitches, evil team's going to want a snitch in play, let's be clear. So really from an evil perspective, it is an S. But as good, I think it is probably C. Do I want to be Snitch? No. Have I got anything to dual game? No. Have my pact has already fucking helped good evil, and there's nothing I could do about it? Yeah. So why would I ever want to be this character? It's a great ability for evil to have in the game, and maybe is another one of those that. Wait, let me read Tyler's notes. Make sure I'm not about to say something Tyler's already said.
I haven't said it yet. I just wrote it.
Okay, just checking. I want to say it feels like it could be more like a Fabled, like the Toy Maker type thing to create that sort of interesting dynamic that way, instead of basically forcing a player to have nothing to dual game. But hey, evil wants it in play. It does absolutely nothing for good. It's an okay bluff for evil, as long as you don't mind being voluntarily executed because you're doing nothing for good, especially if there's a Vortex or something on the script. Could also be a case if there is a leech or something, you might also be having to get rid of if no one's figured out that they're the drunk, etc. It's S tier for every other part of the criteria that we previously discussed for around minions. Do I want to be it? Hell no. What do I do with the rest of my afternoon while I'm playing it? Absolutely nothing, really. It's not as bad as the Golem or Butler in terms of once you're done, you have nothing to do. At least for those characters, you have to decide when you use your ability as Golem, or who you're picking as your master as Butler. So even those are better than the Snitch, and that's where I feel about it. It is S for good, sorry, S for evil, C tier for good.
I think it's S tier by our criteria for inexperienced players. I think if you're a minion and your demon doesn't know how to transfer that information in a way that doesn't feel suspicious about what the bluffs are, Snitch really helps those minions a lot. I think it's great in a little monster game for those players that are involved. I think for experienced players, I think it actually comes down to an A tier. I think I think a lot of evil players that are experienced, like, they'll take the extra bluffs. That's fine. But if they find themselves in a double claim or a triple claim, they wriggle their way out of it because they have the experience to say, like, yes, of course I claim this. I'm really the Raven Keeper, and I wanted evil to think I was this, and so that's what I said. Jeez, man, like, come on, quit being so dense, right? Like, evil at that level of play knows how to double back on a bad bluff once they get a lay of the land and who's who and what's going on, right? So I think it comes down a little bit as players get more experience. The one thing I would say about that they don't have anything to do is, like, to me, it's like a good version of the Baron. I mean, good by alignment, not like a better version of the Baron, because obviously they're not the same. But the Baron is, a lot of times we credit it because it's like, well, the damage has been done. You can do whatever you want, right? You don't have to worry about, like, whether or not you're going to get used to your ability. There's no sunk cost. There's no, like, oh, I got to lay low because I might be the demon. It's like, nope, I can go out and do anything. And the Snitch has that type of thing. You've already hurt as much as you're going to hurt, right? You get killed, great. You protect another player. You can have a lot more flexibility. And I personally like those roles. I've had a lot of success as a player as an outsider who maybe gets a little bit of trust because you're confirmed by the outsider count. that is a knock against it for the evil team, is that it's because they know what their role is. Like, they can be a confirmed player. There's really no reason to execute them at that point if they're confirmed. If there's not hidden outsiders on the script, then it's like, yeah, we know you're good. We believe you. Then, okay, well, I can soak up a kill. We saw some interesting plays from some different players early on where they pretended to be something valuable. And I think that's a good use of the snitch. I mean, what's the harm in that? And that confirmability is a very strong part of the game. We've seen that a lot, especially in our 9-player setups. You know, the 2 outsiders, if they both know and everybody buys that, that's very valuable for the good team.
Cool. All right. I mean, I do hear you, but so somebody in the YouTube chat has said outward good is hardly the same as outward evil. Like, what are you gonna do with that? I mean, it depends on your role, right? But there's, unlike a virgin where it's confirmable mechanically, Snitch is not really mechanically confirmable from the townsfolk perspective. So what do you do for the rest of the game? It is a hugely powerful boon for evil, for sure, which does make it an S tier by our outsider ranking. But, I mean, it kind of falls flat everywhere else, I feel. Even if I talk about theme for a second, nobody really likes snitches. Nobody wants to be a snitch. Evil people don't want to be snitched on. Even good people look down on snitches. So it does make sense for it to be an outsider. Like, in society, a snitch would be an outcast, right? Like, you don't want to associate with a snitch at all. So it makes sense as it's an outsider, but it feels backwards from a theming perspective because a snitch should hurt evil, not help them. And I'm irrationally annoyed by that. I don't know. It doesn't add enough at all. I hear what you're saying about new players, like it would be a nice, easy way. So I think I agree with Adam in that it feels more like a fabled than a role that you should play, for sure.
People are pushing back on something I said in chat, and I would say that is their perception of that for outsiders is not true of many outsiders because their condition happens when they die.
What are they saying, Tyler? Just to help us out.
They are saying that my statement that you basically are free to do whatever you want, soak up a kill, do some different things. That's good for the good team. It's also good to be a known outsider. That benefits the good team. Our criteria, for me, that brings it down from an S to an A. That's why I listed those things. And it gives them something to do. Mini roles, Sweetheart comes to mind. They're the barber. The negative effect happens when they die, so they can't actually play in this way of like, I can do whatever I want. The only thing that really counters a snitch in that way is a Fangu. So that would be my response to that. There are plenty of outsiders that are negatively affected by dying, and maybe the snitch should be one of them, but then it kind of delays what it does for the game. Thematically, I get wound up in thematics all the time. I think it could be better that way. It probably is due for a rework if people want that. But I think a lot of outsiders are prone to being kind of like nothing burgers. If you can't make your own fun when you draw an outsider, you may not like some of the Clocktower games that you're involved in. But I personally do. I think it's great that a lot of abilities have information and they have powers, but the fact that some don't, like outsiders are actually they are the killer app of Clocktower. They help balance games in terms of group size. So yeah, some of them are gonna kind of think to be. Sorry.
Well, I am just gonna say, Ty, there is no such thing as outed good from a snitch's ability, right? There's no way to mechanically confirm it like a virgin, right? There is no outed good like that, you know? Like, let me rephrase that. It's not a true outed good in the same way that some other characters are, like the virgin, right? So that's... But if I guess what I'm saying is the same. The snitch probably perfectly ties into the way I play the game most of the time, in that I play a little bit mischievous, a little bit trying to see what I can do, and there's no repercussion when I do that as the snitch. It's still not something I'd want to be though, right? Like I could do that. I do that with any character is what I'm saying, I guess, right?
Sure. Well, look, so the mechanical confirmation, I understand that what I'm saying by mechanical confirmation is just confirmed by the outsider count. And there are things that can modify that, mess around with it and stuff like that. We've seen how often, though, that can make players look legit. We've seen that often enough to where people know what I'm saying by that. I understand that they're not mechanically confirmed, but because they also don't have the risk of a saint, of a, of a sweetheart, of a barber, or these other roles, they can, like, if they want to get up to no good and look real shady for a while and be like, hey guys, yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to make a play, it didn't work out. I'm dead, no big deal. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is freeing for certain players. Maybe not everybody, but those are the points for it.
Yeah, and where do we put heretic in the end? I'm just trying to find it on the screen.
I mean, it's even more detrimental to town in that case, though, because if you've got an outsider running wild, creating chaos, like it's almost not a good. It's not on the good team, because that kind of chaos usually hurts town more than it hurts evil. Adam,
shut up.
Well, I mean, I think it hurts good more than it hurts evil when they're doing it as townsfolk, right? And I just mean that because, like, if the snitch is making up information that gets valuable townsfolk killed and all that kind of stuff, yeah, that's bad. I don't know why they're doing that necessarily. But if they, I mean, all I'm making a point about is that what they can do in the game when people say they have nothing to do. If you are involved in the game and you are alive, you are a part of the investigation and the deduction. And if you are relying solely on the information you get mechanically, then I think you're losing half the game of Clocktower. And I think that's kind of what and a circular route around I'm trying to say. I think there's too many people that are reliant on just the mechanical side when there's a whole other part of the game where you're going up to people and you're testing what they're saying, and you're comparing that to what other people say. And because you don't have to worry about, like, the savant has an important mechanical role to play to get information for the group. Snitch doesn't. I can just go around and probe people. Not like an alien, because that's inappropriate, but like verbally.
So here's the problem, right, Ty? Blood on the Clocktower has no vanilla villagers. The Snitch is the absolute closest thing in the entire game to a vanilla villager, because all you've done is give evil bluffs. Like, that's it. You do nothing else now for the rest of the game. It is the closest thing. Let me rephrase that. I'm a social player, Ty, so I know you're not directing that comment at me about needing the technical ability stuff to go and do things. But even as a social player that doesn't rely on the technical abilities half the time, like, the Snitch is just a vanilla villager. I want there to be, like, the reason I play Clocktower instead of Werewolf is because it gives me all this other stuff going on around it. I feel a little bit left out. I feel a little bit left out of the game of Blood on the Clocktower when I'm something like the Snitch, is I guess what it comes down to.
So just to sort of pull in chat a little bit here, Tapir has made a statement that I wildly disagree with, which is, if I have to be vanilla good, I'd rather be Snitch than Soldier. No, as the Soldier, I'm trying to get the evil team to point at me in the night. I'm using social chaos to feed that to the evil team. And then over in YouTube chat, we've got M Post saying that basically they agree with you, Tyler. And we have Jeff over there saying they could be providing cover for a powerful townsfolk, though, and with no real risk if it goes wrong. That's fair. I can agree with that. Like, if you're in a role swap with something more powerful, then cool. That can be a good way to use the Snitch. But to get that townsfolk to trust you at all, I don't know. It's a game to play.
I do agree with Tapir, and I understand that this... It's not just because it supports my argument. I think I understand what he's saying here. You
agree with the guy agreeing with you, yeah. That's...
Well, about the vanilla villager, quote unquote, right? Because look, I've never trusted anybody that got targeted in the night as a soldier. No, neither has anyone else, ever. Okay, after their third game or whatever, nobody trusts that shit. It's to almost everybody. It feels like the demons sink to kill so that they could try to confirm a soldier bluff. The soldier never builds any equity, never builds any trust. It's hard for them to go. The Snitch, in a world in which there's no hidden outsiders, and you go, we've got 2 outsider claims, There should be 2 outsiders. I think they're just good, right? That's, to me, that's easier to play than trying to play a soldier and convince that I must have gotten targeted at night. I mean, that's my perception of what Tapir's saying, and that's how it feels when I'm in those types of roles. Almost never but no one ever pushes back when I draw the Tinker like all the time. I don't know why. It's just like I'm drawing, like maybe I make shit explode in my house, and they're like, "Hey, this is appropriate for you," but that, you know, so nobody ever pushes back when you claim Tinker. You know what I mean? And you're not doing anything either. You're just waiting to die. When will I die at an inopportune time, storyteller? Please tell me. I've begged storytellers to kill me during the day. They won't do it. Jerks. Bunch of jerks. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, to me, I think we're moving the criteria a little.
Oh, did I lose Ty?
Yeah, we've lost Tyler's audio.
Ty, we lost you there for a bit. You said you're moving and then I lost you for a second.
I feel like we're moving the criteria a little bit on how we rate outsiders. That's all I meant. I mean, I think a lot of the outsiders are not fun for people to play.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And we haven't, I didn't give a rating. I'm not sure if Adam did either yet, but it's, this whole snitch over soldier thing is kind of bogging me a little bit, because I just think you're all wrong.
Don't you attack
honestly.
TB?
I know, it's not even that. I mean, it is that, but it's not that, because people are saying stuff like, oh, the storyteller always paints you, like, tries to stitch you up as the soldier. And it's like, well, your storytellers need to be being more thoughtful about what they are doing with the characters that they put in the game. That's just bad storytelling. If your storyteller always does the same fucking thing with the soldier, it's bad storytelling. Truly, it really is. Snitch over soldier for good? No, the whole point of the soldier is to get targeted in the night. It doesn't fucking matter if anybody trusts you after that. They can execute you the next day, but you want your ability to go off. Like, that's what you're trying to do as a soldier. That is better for good, for evil to have to miss a kill because of a soldier, than a snitch. A snitch gives evil a boost, which absolutely is how we rank our outsiders. But you can't say that a snitch is better for good than a soldier. That is just objectively false.
I think that's a sunk cost fallacy about people wanting their ability to go off. I think I've seen too many players really mess things up for town because they desperately wanted their ability to be effective. It's a team game. Sometimes that means you stay in your lane. Yes, should the soldier on balance try to draw attention and cover for another player? Yeah, sure they should. You know what I mean? But it's hard to tell the difference between that mechanically and, like I said, a demon who is, or a minion who's bluffing it, and the demon sinks a kill to make them look more credible. So I think why that opinion exists, because, you know, it's just much more likely for them to bluff it. I guess I've seen evil bluff a snitch a time or two, but not as much as I've seen soldier.
Well, I mean, let's be clear, right? Why are evil not bluffing snitch in your opinion then, Ty?
Because it's confirmed, because outsiders are confirmed by the outsider count. So unless there's a hidden outsider somewhere and they know that to be a possibility, right? So a minion could benefit from, like, they know a snitch is not in play, right? If they look at the outsider list and they go, there are some hidden outsiders here, I could come out as snitch, right? And take the chance that, you know, one of the other outsiders that should be here is a drunk. But if there's not any of those kind of outsiders, then it's harder for them to do.
I mean, let's step back from that, because I do think every good script I've ever seen has some sort of outsider manipulation on it, right?
Sure.
So there is always that room, because otherwise what you'd be saying there is evil could never bluff any outsider on any script otherwise. But so there should always be some sort of outsider manipulation. I've seen evil bluff it even when there's not, successfully. But yeah. I think that the reason that people don't bluff as the snitch is more that they are completely expendable, and that's not what most evil want to have out there in the world, of them being an expendable pit hag or poisoner or whatever, right? So with all this said, I
think so. Without outsider ranking, it has to be. I think it can't be S, because it does draw the fun down for people, but I do think it has to be A for its power, for the way it helps evil.
Fucking snitch.
With all that being said, I concur with the two of my colleagues. I believe it's an A.
But I think it's an A because of the outsider requirement, not because of its ability or what it does in the game, right? You think it's just a thing straight out, right?
Oh, well, I mean, like I said, I think you're not encountering the snitch much in inexperienced player games. I mean, like, you know, the way we try to ease people or onboard people into the game, you're not seeing a lot of snitches there, where I actually think it would probably benefit inexperienced Evo players better. So instead, in the player group that gets to have the snitch more often, yeah, I just think it brings it down. I don't think they need it as much.
All right. Let's do this.
I need to read one, don't I?
Allegedly.
You do indeed.
Wait, does that mean I'm talking first? Oh, no.
That probably means you're talking first, boo.
No, it's me talking first. Like I said, I just changed the order around on one of them.
I didn't know that was an option. I would just start.
It's not. I broke all the rules. It's the last one. Whatever.
Fight me, bro.
Next episode will be a tier ranking video of all the tier ranking videos we did, so you can know which ones to go back and watch. The Widow. On your first night, look at the grimoire and choose a player. They are poisoned. One good player knows a Widow is in play. Hayley?
Yes, me. Right. Everybody knows that I think TB minions, Trouble Brewing minions, are all S tier minions. Truly, genuinely, all of them. So what do you get if you cross a spy with a poisoner? Surely the best of both worlds, right? Wrong. It's kind of a wash, honestly. So my issue, right, strategic poisoning is part of the fun of the poisoner. You know, being able to shift that poison is huge. Can't do that with a Widow. It just sticks to one person all game. Now, okay, they've seen the grimoire, so they can make the strategic choice of which one to poison for the whole game. But I kind of like the, you know, the flexibility of being able to shift that poison of the poisoner. That just elevates it. For the spy, registering is good, and seeing how the grimoire's changing over the course of the game is the fun of the spy. The Widow gets to see it once. So it's like a one-time combo of the spy and the poisoner. I don't know. That just kind of stinks a little bit to me. I mean, it doesn't, but it does. Because then also, a good player knows that there is a Widow in play. Like, that just drags it down even further. I'm on a TB moment. Yeah. I'm always on a TB moment, but truly, I just don't think it needed to exist in the way it does. I would love to see a spy and a poisoner comboed, but like just as they are, like that would be like a god tier minion, right? Like, that would be ridiculous. Stupid powerful. Dominate the whole game.
I want Optimus Prime and Godzilla to be the same. What?
Yes.
There is. It's Grimlock.
Mecha Godzilla, and it's silly. Go ahead.
It's still my turn. Shh.
Yeah.
Shh.
All right.
It could possibly be the best of both worlds if Good didn't know it was in play. I almost want this to be a Huntsman Damsel King Choir Boy combo with a Snake Charmer. So the Snake Charmer is the good one, that is good player that is told that there is a Widow in play, because it incentivizes the Widow to not tell their first demon that they are the Widow. They don't have to give the grimoire to that first demon straight away. If you chuck a lunatic on that script as well, then you've got a Snake Charmer that, targets the right demon, because the Widow knows exactly who the Snake Charmer is, because they've seen the grimoire and they can tell them who to point at. And then they can cover it by, saying, well, you must have been a lunatic. And then you've got outsider messing with things as well. I just think that would be infinitely more fun than the Widow.
Leave it to a Birch to say, oh, this role should do plus Snake Charmer. Maybe plus 2 Snake Charmers.
Not the one you thought was going to be saying it, but
no, I am blindsided, friend.
I do actually like the Widow, but I do think that it's not S tier for me. It's probably B or A. But I just would love to see it as in combo with the Snake Charmer. I just think that would be beautiful.
We were busy on Thursday, right? Let's also be very clear about that. We were actually having fun instead of watching the TPI stream. So we were busy on Thursday, so we didn't get to watch it. At the same time, it went really, really bad, that one game. Doesn't mean it's always going to go bad. Oh, well. Okay, moving on then to the Widow. Oh boy, do I have some thoughts about the Widow. So the Widow gets to see the script and poisons one player. I think the Widow is really where I started to come into the complete and utter mindset that no taking photographs of the grimoire is allowed. The rule of the spy is that you only get to see what's inside the grimoire at the moment where you are looking at the grimoire. When the storyteller takes a look inside the grimoire, and that moment where the storyteller is holding the grimoire in front of you, that is the only time you're going to get meant to take a look at it. Taking a photograph of it breaks that rule, in my opinion. I appreciate there are some people out there that might need assistance with remembering everything that's in the grimoire, but I don't want to get into that right now. I have other thoughts around that I probably need to discuss at another time on another podcast. But with that, the Widow, because people can just take a screenshot of what's going on the grimoire, you can't really stop them. They can just do whatever. They get to take a look at the grimoire, make a note of everything that's going on. It is S tier online, B tier in person, because it is much harder to remember the entire grimoire from taking a look at one quick glance at it when you're selecting who to poison at night on the first night of what's going on in the game. You get to pick out a couple players that are important that you need to get rid of, remember who you've poisoned, and then carry on from there, really. It's really what it comes down to. So for me, like I say, it's S tier online, B tier in person. I think it has, unlike Hayley, I think it has a great balance to actually letting good know that it's in play. Let me just make sure I'm not stealing anything from Tyler again. And I'm going to stop there, and I'll come back to anything else I want to add afterwards. Goodbye.
Yeah, I think so. That's one of the things that's interesting. So one of my favorite minions, maybe my favorite minion at all, is the Godfather. I haven't made that really like a secret or anything. And part of it is because it has so much utility, right? If you want to play it as an info role, you can. If you want to play it as a killer, you can set that up. It'll happen. You'll get a kill, I promise. It affects setup. All that stuff is cool, right? And people like knock it because it's not specialized enough. Like, okay, so the same thing is happening to the Widow here. You can play this any number of ways you want to, and it provides for imagination in what you want to do. If you want to play it where, yes, you get one look at the Grim, you get to rely on that information for what you want to do. It sets up what kind of bluffs you might want to take. I'm the dreamer, I'm the grandmother, that kind of thing. You can decide to poison yourself and hide that information from good, right? Self-poisoning Widow. It's actually not my favorite play, but we've seen it be successful on off meta several times. But the ability to then go, I don't like that role at all. I don't want that there, and I'm not gonna fool with it. I'm gonna poison the shit out of that. Is great. If you feel like this role is going to take the chance away for your team to win, have at it. The threat of it being there when the Widow is announced makes everybody sit there and go, "What was it me? I got night one info." They get a lot of value of screwing up my night one info. I'm the balloonist in a Leviathan game. I'm going to get 4 nights of good info unless the Widow, and they probably did, poison me. It seeds doubt with every ability that is information-based when the Widow is announced. If people believe the announcement, which is not surefire. I've seen so many games where the person who comes out and goes, I saw the Widow, everybody immediately piles on them and wants them killed. If they wait even a millisecond, if they go to whisper and nobody heard it and they come back later and go, hey guys, I heard the Widow, they're doubly executed if that's possible in a non-zombie game. We're going to kill them again. It's just, it creates so many circumstances for the evil team to work with and try to maneuver around in a way that's kind of a little bit more subtle. Yes, they don't have the I'm alignment protected like the spy, but they can build capital and build trust. And if there is a real grandmother, it makes people go, I don't know if I believe you're the real grandmother. You're probably just a widow, right? That happens all the time. So I think it does all these types of things. It seeds doubt. It was designed for it originally, because it's not a Kickstarter role. It is a laissez unfair role. So it was intended for a teensyville script. So I think it was meant to say, hey, let's take 2 roles and kind of limit what they can do, but we do want to give you some added utility because you're only going to have 1 minion. And most of the time, the minion and the demon aren't going to see each other because we got 5 players and that's the rules. But now the widow knows who the demon is, and on it goes. I think it's really great in scripts with, I think it's great with Legion, and I always look for roles that go well, the minions that go well on a Legion script, and those are the ones where people get to say things like, a member of the Legion gets to go, hey, guys, just so everybody knows, before anybody goes anywhere, I was told there was a widow in play, right? That helps cinch bluffs or helps people stay off the trail of Legion longer if people are pretending to be mad, if people are saying they saw the widow, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I just really think it's a really, really great role. I don't know how, I mean, I don't have the experience enough with it. I've played catfishing a number of times in person. I don't know if the widow was in play there. But nonetheless, I still think we won as an evil team, so it must have been pretty effective. I still think it can be good in person, though it is a lot of information to take in. I think it's an S tier for me, especially compared to the only other minion we have in S tier right now from the experimentals is the Goblin, and I think it's on par with the Goblin.
Like I say, it's S tier online, B tier in person, because there's too much information there. You've got to try and remember all in one quick snapshot of the Grimoire, right? It's much harder. There's less people out there, I should say, that can do that.
Sure.
I mean, I'm fine with putting it in A. I do actually think it's good. I know I kind of donked on it a bit, but that was just because of my Trouble Ruin Defense meme that I am. So.
It's got everything you love, and also, I don't know if we said it,
it has. Yeah, it really does.
Ramanchu, thank you for the follow. Welcome to being the 900th follower for us on Twitch.
I know we're discouraging people about Twitch, but I think we can get to 1,000 followers on Twitch this week. This week, though, I think we can do it. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool. 1,000's a good number.
Curb21 is saying Mesophiles is A. How?
Because I could not get people on. No. You had to go back and watch that episode.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. You want to find out why those things are there? You go back and watch it.
Spoiler alert.
Do you know where you watch it?
It was over my dead body. I am undead right now. Anyway.
I mean, the video isn't actually up online because, we're like a month or two behind. But...
I think you'd have to join the Patreon and watch the unedited one or something, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but it'll be up. It'll be up soon. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, the only problem I have with putting it in A is like that means that means we're saying from the experimentals the Goblin, and I understand what the arguments for the Goblin was. I just think I'd much rather have a Widow on my team than a Goblin.
Interesting. I think so. I hear what you're saying. Online, I'd agree with that. In person, I'd rather the Goblin. The Goblin gives evil a bluff as well as good. Don't forget, right?
It's also the number. Yes, I understand. Yeah, that's true. And we saw the Goblin had an effect on a good player claimed Goblin in our off meta game on Thursday. That caused some issues for the good team. So it can have an impact when players do that. I thought it was a valid play at the time. So when you talk about online versus offline, I think it's also a question of group size. Right. So like if you're playing in a 15-player game, obviously the Widow's power diminishes. It wasn't really designed for that. It was designed for that teensy, but I still think it plays really well in a 9-player setup. So, I mean, things like that. I mean, a 2-minion setup can also be really good because, there's even if they announce that there's a Widow, there's still a chance that there's another minion around. You can pit hag out of it. So if other roles, and this is not effect of the ability, but Hayley's point about it not being as strategic as the Poisoner, most Poisoners I know blindly pick people, get nothing done, and then cry about it at the end of the game because they don't know. The Widow is making a choice. And I think that is such a big difference and such a great strategic difference. They are getting to make a strategic choice for their team. What am I willing to face off against? Do I want to go toe-to-toe with the lycanthrope? Do I want to go toe-to-toe with the empath? Where do I want to go, and who do I want to fool with? And that's more agency than a poisoner gets, because, you know, oh man, on night 1 I poisoned the butler. Night 2, I got the Undertaker, but we didn't execute anybody. You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that. I mean, and a poisoner has more strategic value when they are combined with a spy in a multi-minion game. But that doesn't always get to happen.
Yeah,
anyway.
I hear that. And so YouTube chat, so George is saying, I hear Tyler saying is that the most of the Widow's effectiveness comes from it being on the script, not from it being in play. And then Jeff is saying that info and poison are effective, but with diminishing returns the longer the game goes on, which I do think I agree with.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I don't think it's just because it's on the script. I think part of its power is that it's on the script, but when it's in play, it still gets to make choices. And to Jeff's point, a lot of times evil sows the seeds that they lay early, right? So if I am laying the foundation throughout the game that this is the narrative, a lot of evil players, for good reason, they're flying by their seats of the pants. They're reacting to what they're getting in, right? But with roles like the Widow, you can start to create and lay the foundation of a narrative early and then try to play that out to the end. And that's a benefit that 2 roles essentially get, and that's the spy and that's the Widow. Anyway, but
I don't know if I could put this up in S. I just don't know. I mean, it actually is kind of best of both worlds of spy and poisoner, but I mean, not entirely best, because the spy register is good is great, but
a lot of these things are dependent on what else is in play, right? I think we can talk about if we could do a completely reclassification of the S tier of every character. If we say, if you pair it with this character and that's the basis, if you pair it with the Fangu, re-rank everything based on S through A, and you can come up with a completely different set of numbers basically from that. But that's
part of my case for the Widow, is that it's great. Like when we take a look at minions, right? I think the spy shines in combinations. And I think that's why Ed, when we were doing those rankings initially, did not put it as highly as I would consider the spy. And I know that Adam would consider the spy, but I think the spy shines best in different combinations, because sometimes knowing a bunch of stuff and not really being able to do much about it kind of stinks. It feels like you're on a train ride to hell, right? The Widow gets to see this stuff, have the information, make a choice, make an impact. And that to me is great as a solo minion. I think that's valuable. But also the situation, I think I'm trying to remember if it was the setup, if it was Widow Snake Charmer, but I know that one of our players seduced Ekin into being a part of some kind of scheme like that, and that was pretty funny. They hijacked the demon from Lao. Mean. Anyway. So are we settled on A? I haven't pulled at your heartstrings. I haven't convinced anybody.
Like I say, the problem I think it's too rough in person.
Okay.
That's really what it comes down to. S, if we only ever played on A, if we never played online, you wouldn't even have to convince me, and it is absolutely S tier. I would have been shouting it from the rooftops at anyone that tried to put in anything but S. But once you get to in person, I just think it's a little bit too rough.
Alrighty.
Hayley, muted.
You have pulled me up on it. I mean, I didn't have it particularly low anyway. I had it in A, personally. But you have kind of pulled me up on it. But it's mostly, if I look at what we've already got there, it's probably because of that rather than...
Ignore Legion 3 times, because that was a little excessive. A little too much excitement on Adam's point about the...
I mean, it's representative of Legion, right?
That's right.
I mean, when I look at this, when I look at the A tier, though, to be fair, out of all of those A tier characters, even in person, what would I want to be more? The Amnesiac, the Bounty Hunter, and probably that's the only 2 I'd want to be more than the Widow. So it's a very high A is what that says to me, right?
Yeah, very high A. Extremely high A.
And you pick 2 roles that I think can sometimes be actively detrimental to town. But I understand what you're saying, Adam.
So
All
yeah,
right. So is it? I guess it's.
it's really between you guys, because it wouldn't take. If Hayley thinks it's S, then I guess it goes up to S, right? Is really what it comes down to, because I think it's very high A already.
Oh, I don't know. I just don't want it in the same row as the psychopath. The psychopath's B tier for me.
Oh,
really, truly.
Kappas, you need to get your own podcast if you want to.
What's wrong?
Kappas is saying, I've just seen that Lycan is in A tier and I have opinions. Unfortunately, we're not talking about the Lycan today, Kappas, so jog on.
Last time we did this whole thing, we brought you on and you got to scold us, and we'll probably do the same thing again. So
I mean, we might have a couple of other people lined up to do some scolding this time. That's
yeah, I think so.
Team scolding. I did that for work today, and I can't wait to do it in my free time. Hayley, are you with me? Are you?
Yes.
Are you
well,
gonna be
on that, unfortunately,
this bill?
Stream has
Come
ended.
on,
baby.
It's in S.
Stream has ended. It's still
S.
in A. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for being here and tuning in. Oh, fine, whatevs.
Yeah, I just don't want it on the same tier as the psychopath. Truly, it's so much better than
Broken.
all the other minions on that row.
You think the Widow's broken?
I think I'm now broken inside.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit.
I'm sorry.
Let's
that I slightly moved the needle in one
You
direction.
didn't need a win. You've just got engaged. Shut up. You're fine. Get over it. All right.
She only agreed because I have terminal cancer. There, I'm telling you first, Chad. I have terminal cancer.
Not the mouth, the way you're talking.
That's not true, and that's not really funny, and I'm sorry. I take it back. Anyway. All right. Well, with that is all of the experimental roles for Blood on the Clocktower. We have ranked them all. I can see some people have opinions. If you want to go look at the back catalog and see why we ranked them the way we did, maybe that'll give you some more insight. Obviously, it is a process in which 3 people come together, which is purely scientific, and we pull at each other until someone just cracks, like you just saw with Adam. And some of them are going to be where they could get some agreement or some consensus, because one of us said S and the other one said C. You'll have to go and find out which ones were which, and it'll be fun along the way. But that's all those tier rankings for now. We are going to, of course, have some great folks from the Clocktower community come on and tell us what they think as well. And they say, what were you thinking? And we go, watch the video, man. Come on. And they're like, I don't have time for all that. That's really usually what will happen. But we'll get their opinions, and we may move some stuff around. And then we're going to use it to formulate a script. We already have one based on all the base 3 that's called Creme de la Creme. We have run it. It is by far, and I say this with absolute humility, the best custom script you'll ever play, because it's got a bunch of roles that are just awesome. You'll enjoy every single one of them. And then we have its cousin, the Bree team, which is clearly... it's got some issues. It's got some problems.
Bree team's fine. Back off, Tyler.
Bree team, yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Yes.
I think it's going to be elevated with a couple of these bees that are on here.
Yeah, we could put some of these bees on here, make a cheesier script out of it.
I mean, there's a farmer that makes sense for that to be added at least.
And we'll yeah, it's true. It's the dairy farmer. But we're gonna be adapting the breeds or the creme de la creme based on some of the things you see here. So we got a couple demons. We'll have to figure out what's coming off, what's going on, and that'll be in the episodes to come. You can check us out at youtube.com/offmetaplays. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, leave a comment. That is so very helpful. We have a new video up. Did it go up today? The one with Ben Burns?
Yesterday.
Where we went yesterday. Check that out. We love it. We are going to be playing Clocktower.
It was okay. I wasn't
Thursday.
in it, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Part of hyping things is to sometimes present them as better than they were, even though Adam wasn't there.
Yeah,
and it makes me sad too. So we got another Brit with a beard. Well, you don't have a beard. I don't know, hair. A Brit with hair to come and talk to us about it. You're interchangeable.
Yeah. And if you want to yell at us directly about our opinions, you can join our Discord. I have put the links in the chats for you. And don't forget, if you want a copy of that Off Meta Playroom that's doing the rounds on social media, you can get a print copy of it by signing up for our patreon.com/offmetaplays. Again, the links are in the chat.
And if any of this goes over your head and you forget it, and you're like, what were the links? Where did I click? What do I do? I don't know how to use the Google search machine. Then go to Twitter and go to @offmetatweets, and we'll tell you. We'll remind you right there. Appreciate you in a big way.
Thanks.
Bye.
Anything else we want to? Or you just wave it?
Just silent.
Just wave it.
Okay. Bye.